I'm Will Stubbs. I'm the co-founder of Spur Projects, the non-profit focused on mental health and mental illness. I'm also co-founder and technical director of Spur Labs, the profit-for-purpose social impact design firm. Story behind the Spur family, I guess as we're calling it now, both Spur Projects and Spur Labs, is quite a long one. But about 6 years ago, I was introduced to a fellow named Ihon Chan through a mutual friend. And Lee Crockford, who has since become my partner in crime and business partner in all sort of things. And it was based on the fact that back then there was a report that came out that talked about the #1 killer of men aged 14 to 44 is suicide. The initial campaign was called Soften the Fuck Up, and it was a shot across the bow, I guess, at traditional campaigns around awareness to mental illness and depression for men. So back then it was mostly pamphlets with black and white, picture of a guy with his head in his hands on the side of the bed, depression across the top. And we thought that's just not what you'd want to read if you were going through a tough time. Particularly for myself, when I was about 12, I was suicidal, and that sort of stuff didn't really resonate for me. But it was something that completely changed my life and has led to establishing Spur Projects as a completely proper DGR charity, and now the creation of Spur Labs, which is a really, really exciting new model for social impact in business. The challenge is that if you tackle a problem like we have with a very bold attitude, and you are seen as the edgy ones in the space, people are interested and they're very supportive. We've had a heap of in-kind support. I think the in-kind support for How's Well Feeling was probably around about $1 million of people sharing things, providing us media exposure and so on. But we've never had success with grants or donations and much in that way. So we always were stealing time to go and do this alongside our day jobs. So we had this idea about a year ago where we realized that we were starting to get asked, hey, how did you come up with that idea? Or, what's the story behind that campaign? What is your methodology? And we went, we actually know what we're doing now somehow. And we realized that, our other work, the stuff we were doing was in consulting on social impact, social change, technology and futurism, and that we could do this work for others and help them to have an impact. Then we had this really crazy idea of what if we could create a new business model that would allow us to make a difference in the world, do the stuff that we love to do, which is positive social impact, and fund our nonprofit at the same time. Seemed like a really crazy idea. It turns out you possibly can do that. So we put together this rough idea for a new company called Spur Labs. And the idea is that Spur Projects remains as it is. It's a completely non-profit entity. The team is and has been always a volunteer team. Spur Labs is what we're calling profit for purpose. So Spur Labs is a social impact design firm. So whether that is changing behavior around mental illness through design and creative campaigns, using drones to deliver supplies to remote areas in disaster time, using blue LEDs to combat jaundice in newborns in Nepal. Whatever that social impact work is, it has to be moving the needle forward in the world in some way. The funds from that mean that we can support Spur Projects. So built into the charter of the company is 5% minimum of profits get funneled directly into Spur Projects, as well as 20% of employee time. It's been really interesting for us to think that this is our intended career. I think I probably wanted to be a whole bunch of different things, but I never thought I'd be what I am, a social entrepreneur, as I've been called. It just kind of happened, and along that way we had to figure out how to do that without anybody showing us a manual of how to do that. And that meant there are some questions we have to ask of, we had a bunch of projects planned for this year that we wanted to tackle. And the problem with doing social impact is that it's almost like an addiction. Once you realize you can help people, you want to do more and more and more of that. And you can easily bite off more than you can chew. When we realized that we had to think more entrepreneurially about the work we were doing, it did start to change how we thought about, say, this year. This year we wanted to do a bunch of projects. One of those was a follow-up to How Is the World Feeling? We wanted to improve that data set, reach more people this year, aim for maybe twice the amount of people, and do that every year. What we realized is that we had to make a choice. What was the most impactful we could do with the resources that we have? And I think that's a question and a challenge that a lot of startups do face about what can you do right now with what you have? What can you do later on when you have more available? So we made this decision that as an investment in the future of Spur projects and ourselves in doing this work, this year we chose one major project for Spur projects, which is Oldmate, which is focused on elderly suicide. So if you remove natural causes of death for men in Australia, suicide continues to be a major issue. And then after age 80, it spikes hugely. One of the reasons for that is that elderly men typically don't have many connections. So they sit around not doing anything, not talking to anybody, and that is a large component towards depression, suicidality. So our campaign will go for 12 months. It'll ask 100,000 Australians to pledge 1 hour a month for 12 months. They'll spend that time with their old mate. And it's about creating a community for those elderly men who are lacking any sort of connection. My discomfort with the title of social entrepreneur is that I think it can be really dangerous if we separate the two, entrepreneur and social entrepreneur, too much. In that you can easily send a message that, hey, social entrepreneurs, you guys worry about helping the world and making a difference and caring about shit. And entrepreneurs, you guys make money and do whatever it is you need to do to make money. And if that means you provide an app that provides service, but also takes people's data without them being aware of it and sells it, hey, more power to you. I think that there's this weird change in behavior that's happened, right? And that years ago, in a time when men wore hats and my granddad was in business, there wasn't business and good business. There was business and bad business. If you did business with somebody, it was expected you're going to do the right thing and provide value to everybody. If your business adds no impact or no benefit to anybody, then you're just an asshole. If your business is just dumping oil in a lake, you're an asshole. You're not an entrepreneur. I think that the rise of social entrepreneurialism is in reaction to the fact that startups, particularly tech startups, have given us more power than ever to do not necessarily great things or right things. The reaction I've seen in talking to, particularly around the startup community, when I explain what I do and what we're about, what we believe in, there's this hunger that I think is starting to flow through startup community around, yes, being an entrepreneur is great, having that lifestyle is great, having success and wealth is wonderful, but at the end of the day, what impact am I having? And people are wanting more. I think, and I have dabbled in predictions in the past, I think that in the future, we won't so much talk about social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. I think that will become very blurred, and I think that's a very good thing.